I want to talk about Buttercup. You might remember Buttercup is Prim's cat from the first book. He's like vaguely present in the second one, and then he has a really heartbreaking chapter in Mockingjay. Buttercup is also the most important stand-in slash metaphor for Katniss and her mental and physical well-being that we have throughout the entire series. And I think that we should talk about it. So when we first meet Buttercup, I think it's really important to note Katniss does not like this cat. Katniss thinks that Buttercup is the most obnoxious, most horrific thing. He sits on the edge of Prim's bed and screams at Katniss. And then he like goes out and hunts, I guess, but like never brings back anything useful. And he eats mostly the entrails off of whatever Katniss has gone hunting for and didn't have a use for. And like Katniss thinks that this cat is completely useless, but Prim loves him, so Katniss allows him to stay. This cat is also really incredibly indicative of Katniss's own purpose in the household and in the family. She is doing what she can to protect and provide for the family. She is more effective at it than Buttercup is. She too is really protective of Prim, and she's a provider, but more than anything, a survivor. And like, yeah, Buttercup is kind of entirely dependent on Katniss's mercy to live. She wants to drown him in a bucket the first time that she meets this cat. But she develops a soft spot for him, mostly because Prim has a soft spot for him, and so the cat continues to stay with them. And we can pretty much ignore the cat for the duration of Catching Fire. It's implied that the cat came to the Victor's Village with them. And then we get to Mockingjay. Let's look at the very first chapter. Katniss has wandered into what used to be her house in the Victor's Village, and she hears a noise, and there's a hiss, and in the kitchen, in the kitchen doorway, back arched, ears flattened, stands the ugliest tomcat in the world. Thousands of people but he has survived and even looks well fed. On what? He can get in and out of the house through a window we always left ajar in the pantry. He must have been eating field mice. And Katniss like tries to get his attention, tries to like the way that you would with a cat. And no, he is angry at his abandonment. And also she's not offering food, so he's like, absolutely not. And here's the thing. Katniss and Buttercup both disliked the new house in the Victor's Village. So they like bonded a little bit because Katniss would go out to the old house in the seam in Catching Fire, and that's where she would meet Buttercup, and she would still keep feeding him entrails. So like she's gotten to like this cat much better than she's actually letting on. And so Katniss says, want to see Prim. And her name catches the cat's attention. And he meows and approaches her, and she picks him up, she pets him, and then immediately shoves him in a game bag. And then, like, that's the only way that she manages to stuff the cat on the stupid hovercraft and get it to District 13. Now, in District 13, you would assume that, like, there's no use for a cat. But there is. Because the people of District 13 aren't super used to, like, pets and joy. They give the Everdeen family, like, a little extra ration of batteries just to keep the cat entertained. And they develop a game. It's called Crazy Cat, and it's, you know, it's what you do with like a laser pointer on the wall and like, you know, let the cat chase it. Like, if you have a cat, you know what this process is like. And according to the book, children and adults have a fascination with Buttercup. He attains celebrity status with his evening game of Crazy Cat. You simply wiggle a flashlight beam around on the floor and Buttercup tries to catch it. The citizens of 13 are truly starved for entertainment. And here's the thing. This game, not just a casual, cute thing involved in this book. It's a symbol, it's a metaphor. Katniss says it openly. I am Buttercup. Peeta, the thing I want so badly to secure, is the light. As long as Buttercup feels he has the chance of catching the elusive light under his paws, he's bristling with aggression. That's how I've been since I left the arena with Peeta alive. When the light goes out completely, Buttercup is temporarily distraught and confused, but he recovers and moves on to other things. That's what would happen if Peeta didn't make it. But the one thing that sends Buttercup into a tailspin is when I leave the light on but put it hopelessly out of his reach. He's useless until I shut the light off. And she registers that that is what Snow is trying to do to her. So again, we have Katniss and Buttercup really as the mirror image of one another, whether Katniss realizes it or not, and she's beginning to there. And then the connections between the two of them start to come back again, because Katniss leaves. She goes to the Capitol. She does all of her, you know, propaganda things in all of the other districts, and she goes to the Capitol with Squad 451, and then, you know, she shoots coin, and so she is hauled off back to 12. And when Katniss is hauled off back to 12, I'm just going to give you the description of what happens. Strangers lift me like a rag doll and carry me up onto the roof, onto a hovercraft, and fasten me into a seat. Hamish and Plutarch sit across from me. She's literally just been bundled up into this hovercraft, just like she did to Buttercup, by people who really do want what is best for her and want her to be in a place that feels like home with people who feel like home, just like she did for Buttercup. And then you get what I genuinely think is the most heartbreaking piece of this book. And it's where she goes out on what she says is the old Katniss's favorite kind of day. And by the time she makes it back to the fence, she's so sick and dizzy that she has to get a ride home in the cart that is being used to gather people's remains. And then she hears a hiss. And it takes her a while to realize that he's real. And she says, how could he have gotten here? I'd taken the claw marks from some wild animal, the back paw he holds slightly above the ground, the prominent bones in his face. He's come on foot all the way from 13. Maybe they kicked him out, or maybe he just couldn't stand it there without her, so he came looking. Which, in a sense, is exactly what Katniss has done, whether by choice or not, by coming home to 12. It was the waste of a trip. She's not here, I tell him. Buttercup hisses again. She's not here. You can hiss all you like. You won't find Prim. And at her name, he perks up, raises his flattened ears, begins to meow hopefully. And this is where Katniss really fully breaks down for the first time since any of it has happened. She's been existing in a fugue state for weeks. And Katniss breaks down. She goes, she's dead, you stupid cat, she's dead. And she starts crying, and Buttercup starts crying, and then the two of them are sitting on the floor clutching each other. And when she wakes up at some hour of the night, Buttercup is there on the end of her bed, guarding her the way that he used to guard Prim. And then the next day, she takes care of him, and she cleans out all of his cuts, and she does what she can to basically put him back together. And she feeds all of her bacon to Buttercup. They've come such a long way. And this is really significant because if you look at Buttercup as the stand-in for Katniss, in telling Buttercup that Prim isn't coming back, it's the first time that Katniss really acknowledges it for herself. And as she feeds the bacon to Buttercup and takes care of him and puts the pieces back together, she also lets Greasy Say brush her hair. She trims her nails. And slowly and with many lost days, I come back to life. I try to follow her therapist's advice, just going through the motions, amazed when one finally has meaning again. And if you've been through like a big grief trauma thing, on the one hand, you know that this is what pets do. This is what the act of having to take care of somebody else does. Is it forces you to take care of yourself to a certain extent. I genuinely think that it's one of the most realistic pieces of this book. But it's also a really clear sign that because Buttercup is okay, Katniss is going to be okay. And it's just an incredibly powerful metaphor, especially when we're talking about like Katniss having just been doing the bare minimum to survive just to get to a goal, which is all she's been doing really since the first book. But in taking care of Buttercup and really beginning to treat him with a little bit of grace for the first time across the book, all three books really, she's also beginning to treat herself with a little bit more grace and begin to acknowledge what she has been through. I think it's a really powerful metaphor. Anyway, thinking about Buttercup made me like sad and emotional again, so I'm gonna go kiss my dog on the top of her little head because she's my favorite thing in this world. If you have cats, I suggest you go hug them, if they'll let you. This is why I have a dog. She lets me hug her whenever I want.